Greetings, everyone. Thanks for joining me again for another edition of Electric Avenue's YouTube updates. I'm coming to you from Command Central here, doing the new releases for what has arrived in store for May 23rd, 2025. This is Memorial Day weekend, and there's not a ton of stuff, but there's more, I think, than usual. It seems like holidays don't seem to matter much to record companies anymore, so they're just kind of releasing stuff all the time. So anyway, a few things that are of note today, and then I'll have a recommend. So all right, might be a little shorter today, but the first release of note this week, and you're thinking, well, if that's the biggest, well, it's one of the biggest, I think, is the new Sparks album, Mad. And there's a kind of a cool lenticular cover of it here. There's a regular version too, for a couple dollars less. This says an all new sonic gut punch from the award winning Sparks, and they are includes Do Things My Own Way and Drown in a Sea of Tears. This is on heavyweight blue vinyl. This is their first album in 2 years, I believe, was when the last one came out. Last one was The Girl Is Crying in Her Latte, and that one featured Cate Blanchett in the lead video. This one is a little bit more of sort of a retrenchment to kind of regular Sparks stuff. They did that one album on Island Records and did this whole, we're celebrating 50 years, and Island Records signed us for a record deal, and they did, and then they dropped them immediately, or I don't know. They chose to leave. So this is on Transgressive Records, which is a sort of up and coming indie label. Well, indie sort of, I think, backed by the majors, but looks like based in London. Anyway, yeah, so this great record. I actually got a preview of it last night, and other than the singles that we've already heard, Do Things My Own Way is pretty glammy, kind of maybe a This Town Ain't Big Enough for Both of Us kind of style. Jansport Backpack is a song really just talking about a girl who's wearing a Jansport backpack, and why won't she talk to Russell? Well, I think Ron, actually, because Ron writes most of their songs, or really all of their songs. And then Drown in a Sea of Tears is kind of a sort of lament for a woman who sort of has bad things going on in her life. I suppose songs like Hit Me Baby and Don't Dog It are pretty kind of typical Sparks fare. A little more on the rocky side. I really like the new single they put out, or sort of streaming track. A little bit of light banter is great, and Lord Have Mercy, the song that ends, is great. It has a nice guitar solo that's sort of reminiscent of old Sparks. And when they get into kind of like more humorous territory on songs like Running Up a Tab at the Hotel for the Fab, and yeah, that's kind of got sort of the typical Sparks darker humor side of things. And there's kind of a section of the album at the beginning of the second side. You know, Russell is in his mid 70s. Ron just turned, or is turning 80 this summer. These brothers have been doing this for over 50 years now. And there's a couple of songs here at the beginning of side two. In Daylight, which is kind of basically saying, I look better in the dark, so you really don't want to see me in the daylight, kind of thing. And the other two songs that follow it, the I-405 Rules, which is kind of a song about how great the freeway system in LA is. Not necessarily the freeways themselves, but all of the things that you get to see along the way, and sort of comparing it to famous rivers around the world, the Yangtze and whatever, the Ganges. And then song that follows it, Along Red Light, is kind of one of those repetitive, sort of almost frustrating situations where you're sitting at the longest red light in the world and it doesn't ever want to change. And the song is sort of repetitive in that sense. Those are kind of more the orchestral side of what Sparks has been doing. So anyway, It's another winner. I'd say it's definitely sort of on par with the last record. So if you liked Girl Is Crying in Her Latte, there's a lot to sort of hang on to here that's sort of a similar. I think after 50 some years, they've experimented so much, they've kind of unified all of their sounds into one. So anyway, I recommend that. I'd also recommend the new album from Stereolab. And this is their first album in, has it been like 10 years, 8 years? I can't remember. It might be longer even. It's been a while. The album's called Instant Holograms on Metal Film, and it features most of the same core people, although one member passed away. But this is a clear vinyl edition made in the EU, 13 new studio tracks. There's a regular black vinyl edition too of this. And I should have mentioned the Sparks is also a gatefold. This is a gatefold edition too. Warp Records, like I said. Mystical Plosives is the name of the first song. Aerial Troubles, Melody is a Wound, Vermona F Transistor, Le Coeur et la Force, Electrified Teeny Bop. They always have really interesting song titles. The Letitia Sadler, is that right? Or Sadier? I'm trying to remember how to say her name, but she is the lead singer still, and has kind of a very low voice. This is very like 60s, but I wouldn't call it psychedelic. It's more towards the kind of electronic experimental side of things, more of the art rock of that era, but very pleasant with her vocals and all. Not wispy, I wouldn't say, more kind of that sort of traditional kind of French pop sound, but quirky. So, two really quirky releases to lead the week off. And by the way, the Sparks is available on cassette as well. um, it's kind of, yeah, throwback there. All right. Cassettes are a thing. I'm selling more cassettes and more CDs again than I've sold in quite a while. I mean, records are still selling, but it seems like a lot of the kids are more into it now because maybe they're a little cheaper than records, a little more portable, a little easier to use, and they just want something that defines them that is not their phone defining them because that's really all they have other than that. So I think it's cool that they're finding ways to kind of connect with who they are and what they enjoy. That being said, Taj Mahal and Keb Mo, their new album On the Porch, Room on the Porch. This is their second recent collaboration. It's an indie record store exclusive on opaque custard vinyl. It's sort of a throwback to Taj Mahal. One of his early popular records sort of featured a porch of, is it a church maybe? Anyway, features the song Room on the Porch, My Darling, My Dear, Nobody Knows You When You're Down and Out, Junkyard Dog. Oh, I see the name Wendy Moten on here. I haven't seen that name in a while. So anyway, new album from those guys. All right. It's kind of an interesting turn here for Andy Bell. Now, there's two Andy Bells out there. I got to make that clear. There's Andy Bell from Ride, who is also a member of Oasis. This is not that Andy Bell. This is Andy Bell from Erasure, so more of a techno pop group. And this is his new solo record, 10 Crowns. This is his third album. It's kind of an interesting cover where they've sort of made him to look like he's been fused into this piece of coinage. Pressed on white vinyl, limited edition of 2,500. Features the song Heart's a Liar with Debbie Harry. And the rest of it, I think there's one other song that's got a sort of a duet. Oh yeah, Sarah Potenza on Lies So Deep. I sort of asked myself the question, Erasure is so successful. Why is he doing these solo records? I think he just sort of wants to do them when Vince wants to do other things. When you're in a duo, sometimes if you're on the grind all the time, it just you don't get a chance to do anything else. So he did this album with Dave O'Day, which is he's a DJ producer, and the results are pretty good. I mean, it's got a little bit more of a sort of modern-y sound than maybe some of the recent Erasure records. A little bit more of a clubby sound, I suppose, but still has the kind of Erasure-ness and Andy's sort of I don't want to say obsession with, because I think it's more his interest in religious sort of themes, where we get on side two, Dawn of Heaven's Gate, Godspell. Those songs are for sort of more like kind of Erasure Innocence era kind of sounding stuff. And Put Your Empathy on Ice is a pretty good song. That one and Dance for Mercy are very catchy and should appeal to Erasure-ish type fans. So all right. Another band that I'm really interested in. It's been a while since they've had a record. These New Puritans, and their album is called Crooked Wing. It's two brothers from the UK. They're twins. The one who is the drummer is George. He's married to Pixie Geldof, and they have a kid. And the lead singer, Jack, single, but has a very interesting way of singing on these records. This is their, I believe, their fifth or sixth album. Um, every album is sort of different. They're all very art rocky. If you're into like Talk Talk, or the quieter moments of Kate Bush's more maybe jazzy stuff, or like the newer, or David Sylvian, kind of art rock stuff. He does sort of croon, but almost unintelligibly. This album, so I would say use the lyric sheet if you're going to get into this. It helps, even though the lyrics are sort of also kind of not completely accurate. It does sort of start with the sound of a choir boy on the first song, and he's got an amazing voice. And he also wraps up the album, sort of like Kate Bush. What's the album? 20 Words for Snow, where the first song she featured her son when he was young, singing kind of choir boy, high soprano on it. But they're the brothers, and it's definitely like a darker art rock record, but I wouldn't even call it rock. It's got such a rooting in like classical music. There's a lot of songs that feature bells. In fact, the second song is called Bells. Then the third song is called A Season in Hell, and there's like really heavy drumming in that, almost like kind of tribal. They kind of go back to sort of almost like medieval type textures and stuff. But the last few songs are so some really beautiful stuff on this record. So anyway, it's been I think 7 or 8 years since their last one, Inside the Rose. That was a great album. Anyway, this features a poster. This is not really a poster. It's sort of a fold out with like lyrics on it. But and they're signed to Domino Records, which is Arctic Monkeys label. All right. There's a lot of interesting releases this week. There are not a lot of releases, but they're kind of interesting. Marc Ribot, and most people probably know him as a guitarist for like Tom Waits. He's done a lot of work with Tom. This is his new album, Map of a Blue City. And interestingly, it says the downtown New York guitarist, free jazz, and noise rock icon's first vocal album. I can't believe it after all this time. He's doing a vocal album, a collection of songs written over 30 years, limited edition blue vinyl pressing. It says known for his collaborations with Tom Waits, Elvis Costello, the Lounge Lizards, Robert Plant and Alison Krauss, John Zorn, and many more. I mean, he's one of the most interesting sort of guitarists out there. Kind of a retro style, usually very improvisational, but always interesting. And he had another record that came out, I think, last year that might be in the markdown bins somewhere right now. So anyway, if you're interested, check out Marc Ribot. This actually was a release last week, and we got the vinyl now. Robin Trower and his most recent "Come and Find Me." Robin, member of Procol Harum a long time ago, played on Whiter Shade of Pale. He's in his 80s now, still making records. I mean, this is also the week for octogenarians to release records and people in their 60s and 70s. I love it. I think it's great that there's this kind of freedom going on aside from the ageism that exists constantly in the music business. Another older guy here, Gary Moore, live, and this is live from I can't say it. Belois session. Is it Belois? It looks French. But Gary Moore live. This is previously unreleased recordings from 2008 of a performance that stands among Gary's very best. So this is from about 17 years ago. But it's unreleased, so it might be of interest to people. This is a limited edition blue vinyl. There's also a CD DVD combo of this if you want to sort of watch any of the footage. So, all right, the couple big new jazz reissues of the week: original jazz classics, OJC, and this one was actually remastered by Kevin Gray at Coherent Audio, the guy who does all of the Blue Note stuff. This is Thelonious Monk and Monk himself. This actually got 5 stars from Downbeat magazine. It's his 4th album for Riverside Recordings. Stands between Brilliant Corners and Monk's music in the time frame. It's notable for several reasons. This was his first recorded work in the year of 1957, in which he broke through into major recognition. It was his first almost entirely solo album, and it includes at least 2 performances of lasting significance: the unaccompanied version of his classic Round Midnight, and the one exception to the album's solo format, Monk's Mood, on which he is joined by Wilbur Ware and for the very first time, John Coltrane. So, I mean, what else can be said about that? Same thing for this great looking Billie Holiday reissue. This is All or Nothing at All. This is done by Verve Acoustic Sounds. They've done a couple other Billies, but this one looks particularly good. It's in a gatefold format. And mastered and manufactured at QRP. Quality. Let's see. This features Do Nothing Till You Hear From Me, Cheek to Cheek, Ill Wind, Speak Low, I Wished on the Moon, But Not For Me, All or Nothing at All, We'll Be Together Again, Sophisticated Lady, April in Paris, Say It Isn't So, and Love Is Here to Stay. Billie Holiday. This album is difficult to find and difficult to find in good shape, so it's kind of cool that that's out there. For those of you who are jazz vocal fans, a cool release a reissue done by this band, Supergrass, their album I Should Coco. This is on a Zoetrope. It's hard to see, but those are all tiny little faces of the band members, so when they spin, you're going to get the band spinning too. But this actually, people might not, in America, they might not know this as much or know it by name. Supergrass were pretty popular in the UK during the Britpop era, and they still record solo and together. And the song, I mean, this does feature like Caught by the Fuzz. I think one of the songs that's probably most known here is All Right, which if you're in America, you might know it from TV commercials. We are young, we are free, we've got teeth nice and clean. That's a very catchy song. It was featured in the Clueless soundtrack. So anyway, Supergrass reissue on Zoetrope vinyl. Green Day reissue of their album from last year, Saviors. This was actually sort of okay received by critics compared to like their previous few records. I thought it was actually kind of a return to form for them in a lot of ways. I mean, I don't know if it was like exactly like you can't sometimes you can't recapture that lightning in a bottle sort of thing, as many of these artists that I've spoken about today already, once they sort of start getting into certain age ranges, age groups, it's not going to be the same. It's what it is today. But Green Day as a band who, sort of had major success, sold millions of records. I thought this was actually a pretty good effort from them. Definitely better than Father of All. So this is the deluxe edition, 2 LPs pressed on hot pink vinyl with white splatter, and it features 7 unreleased songs. So there's 7 more songs that didn't make the cut on the first record. One of them is called F Off. So I guess Billy Joe is telling you what he thinks if you don't like his album. Another big reissue from the past, and you don't see this on vinyl very often. Norah Jones, Feels Like Home. This was her second album, the one that came after Come Away With Me, which was such a massive hit. And people really didn't know what to expect of her next. Like, she gonna do more jazz, and she kind of took a little bit of a left turn here, doing a lot more folk music. And I don't know how. I'm not sure if she had to do it again, if she would do it the same way. It's almost probably, or they probably would have preferred that she do another Come Away With Me before she'd sort of changed off onto this other form. You can see with the group there, it's a little bit sort of a different, lots of acoustic guitars and violin. Sunrise, What Am I to You, Creeping In, Toes. Anyway, Norah Jones' sophomore record gets a reissue. Don Henley, a later album of his, Inside Job. This is from, was it 2000? 99? 2000. So this one features Nobody Else in the World But You, Taking You Home, For My Wedding, Everything's Different Now, ends with My Thanksgiving. Take You Home and Everything's Different Now were the singles. This album did really well sales-wise, but it didn't do Eagles numbers, obviously. And it was like over a decade from after his previous solo record, End of the Innocents. He'd done some Eagles stuff in between, and so people were kind of like, is it ever happening, and it did. It took a while. So he doesn't have a lot of solo records, maybe 5, 6, something like that. So anyway, that one I've never seen on vinyl before. Maybe it has been and I just missed it. From 2000, Don Henley. Let's see, this may be of interest to some people, I'm sure. Chicago. That sounded like somebody who's not a huge Chicago fan. Well, if you know me, you know my feelings, but I love the city, don't get me wrong. All right, so I don't want to hear it. But I do love the fact that Steven Wilson did the remaster of this album. And it probably is their best album, or second best. I mean, the first couple are pretty undeniably great. And this is Chicago is the preeminent masterpiece. Steven Wilson says that. Remixed by him from the original 16-track master tapes. This is the one that includes 25 or 6 to 4 and Ballet for a Girl in Buchanan. It's their multi-platinum second album. They're a band that really did not have a sophomore slump, I don't think. And it's hard to believe that this is from 1970. So already, 55 years old? But yeah, so Steven Wilson giving it his mixed treatment. Reissue from Martha Wainwright, Rufus's sister. She probably gets tired of being associated that way, but she's definitely an interesting singer-songwriter, artist herself. And this is the 20th anniversary edition, remastered audio, featuring Factory, When the Day is Short, and what's with these song titles here? Bloody Motherfucking Asshole. Yeah. I'm getting all of them today, right? Yeah, this is supposed to be a PG video. Um, Martha, very quirky. I mean, in a great way. Um, the mainstream has not known really what to do with any of the Wainwrights, but they don't really seem to be bothered by it too much, and that's fine with them. So she's a very unique singer songwriter, and so that's out on vinyl. This album's been out on vinyl a few times, and it's good to see this on a color pressing this time. Transparent Blue 2 LP, Dandy Warhol's 13 Tales from Urban Bohemia. And this does feature the song Bohemian Like You, which is known very, very heavily on the indie circuit. And if you've watched any sort of TV shows, it's been used for decades. Catchy. Uh, this is kind of turning into quite a day. Mannequin Pussy and their reissue of their album Romantic. This is the Joker Marvel Vinyl Edition, and this album was pretty much pretty difficult to find. This is 2023 on Romantic Records, so a reissue, and before their big one, the last one. Oh, what's the name of it? I forget. It's the one with the woman holding the pig on the cover. Yeah. Anyway, Mannequin Pussy. I'll just say it again. Let's see. Hey, Pharoah Sanders and Norman Connors, a reissue here of an album called Beyond a Dream. And this looks a little bit later for Pharoah, and because Norman came along a little bit later, really, but limited edition of 1,000 individually numbered copies on blue color vinyl, recorded live at Montreux Jazz Festival, July 22nd, 1978, featuring Bobby Lyle, Buzzy Jones, Duke Jones, Greg Hill, Billy McCoy, Jacques Bervick, Alex Blake, Lawrence Killian, and Petro Bass. I don't know who most of those people are, but 1978, Pharoah Sanders and Norman Connors. So Norman went on to have several albums of his own too, and this is number 286. So they are numbered out of the 1,000 that they made for that. And Denzel Curry, Imperial, another reissue of this album. I think this is on yellow vinyl. It doesn't say on the outside, but he's sort of one of the most famous rappers out there at this moment. Not quite on the sales level of, say, Kendrick Lamar or somebody like that, but he does all right. There's a few CDs I've mentioned this week. Paul McCartney they've been doing these SHM CDs from Japan, the super high bit mapping, and they're supposed to sound amazing. So this week we get Tug of War, which features Ebony and Ivory and Take It Away. We get McCartney 2, which features Coming Up. We get Flowers in the Dirt, probably one of his best albums it's in the 80s. And also the Choba I can't remember, CCCP, the Soviet live record that he did around that period. Choba B CCCP. Union Soviet Socialist Republic, whatever it is, whatever it's trying to be now. Are we going back? And then new record from Puma Blue. This is their Anti-Chamber is the name of it. So I've got the CD for that. This is actually kind of a late arrival, and there were a few of these sort of coming out, and I'm trying to get more of the vinyl too. Mac Avenue's been putting out things. This is Charles Rouse's 2 is 1. And these were albums that were on the Strata East label. So this is the CD version. There is a vinyl. Hopefully we get that soon. And also a late sort of straggler from Record Store Day. They put out on CD the Sun Ra box set, which the vinyl of it was, I think, over $150. And this is 38. Sun Ra's Nuits de la Fondation Mate. I don't know. my pronunciation is not good when it gets to French. If I'm doing German, it's fine. But anyway, I need someone who speaks French to kind of just step in and say, this is how you say this. I don't know. It's not terrible. It could be a lot worse, honestly. So there you go. Sun Ra box set. All right. I did want to do a recommend this week before I run out of time, and it's getting kind of long already. My recommend this week sort of relates back to my first album that I showed today, which was Sparks and their new album, Mad. And let's go back to Sparks' Propaganda. I love this album cover of the Mail brothers. You've got Ron and Russell sort of tied up in the back of this speedboat. What is going on? Yeah. So this is from 1974. So we're going back 51 years already. This album peaked at number 9 in the UK, as it says on the cover. It was seen as sort of a flop, considering that the previous album, Kimono My House, which came out, I believe, the same year or very shortly before, hit number 4. So now that one had a really big breakthrough hit for them. This is their 4th album. They did have 2 albums prior to becoming Sparks, when they were called Half Nelson, and then worked with Todd Rundgren. A lot of people think Sparks are UK band. They're actually from Los Angeles, California, and so the new album features that song I said about the I-405, an ode to Los Angeles, really. And so they've always had kind of a quirky sound. And no matter what they're doing, it's always sort of quirky. Even when they were sort of new wave or whatever, if you want to see a good film, documentary, I say people are always like, what's a good entry point for them, because they have so many albums now too. I would watch their documentary, The Sparks Brothers, the one that the guy who did Baby Driver directed, because he was such a big fan. Very good movie. It sort of kind of shows a lot of people who are fans of theirs paying homage to them. Very famous people, members of lots of famous bands, and then also old archival footage of why they are so special and how they got to be at this point. But I'd say this doesn't really feature the huge, massive hit single that, at least in the UK, that This Town Ain't Big Enough for the both of us was over there. But it does feature probably my favorite song of theirs from this early era, which is Never Turn Your Back on Mother Earth. And that song was covered at one point by Martin Gore of Depeche Mode when he did a little covers EP. And I kind of had a sort of a knowledge of Sparks back in the 80s. And I knew some of their earlier stuff. But that really got me intrigued into looking into their old catalog. And I found that not only was Kimono My House a fantastic album, and that album gets so much talk and praise. There's the cover of that right there. That was the little CD box that came out last year of these 2 albums. But I think that Propaganda is every bit as good, and it has a lot of similarities as far as style and songwriting. Again, they're tied up in the back of this car. Hysterical artwork. Their early stuff at this period was pretty more glam rocky, I guess, but they're sort of different than say Bowie or somebody like that, because they added in a fair amount of Tin Pan Alley and 1930s sort of dance hall. And Russell's voice is just all over the place as far as his range. He's sitting these really high notes, and there are a couple of songs on here that he hits notes higher than he did on the previous record. But yeah, Propaganda, a really great album. Interestingly, most of the singles are backloaded on side B. There's a couple on side A, but most of them, side B, So you have Never Turn Your Back on Mother Earth. You have Something for the Girl with Everything, which is, again, sort of a hysterical song. And they keep saying, three wise men are here, three wise men are here. It's like, is this some sort of kind of weird, twisted ode to the, like, Virgin Mary or something? It's all about men bringing this woman like everything that she could ever want, and it's still not enough, you know? And also the song Achoo, which is kind of like an ode to sneezing and has like lots of sneezing kind of sounds in it. Also, Who Don't Like Kids is on side B, which has kids screaming, Who don't like kids? And it finishes with the song Bon Voyage, which is really kind of a very complicated, complex sort of tune the way it's written. And they've been playing that at their live shows recently. So it does get sort of more sort of art rocky in that song. There's a lot of connections to like Freddie Mercury and Queen. So they both sort of early kind of had this glam rock sound that kind of came out of like Bowie and T-Rex, Mark Bolan, and all that. So this album was also, I guess it was considered a moderate success in the U.S. It also opens with a song that's a very short, 30-second title track. It might not even be that long. And it's just a cappella, and it's Russell just kind of going all over the place vocally as far as his range again. At Home, at Work, at Play is the opening sort of rock song on side A. And that song is very complex too. I think all of these songs generally are fairly complex. BC, short song, but that's pretty complicated. Reinforcements and Don't Leave Me Alone with Her are a couple of songs that could have been also singles, I think. They're very catchy. And Thanks But No Thanks is not a bad song either. I really like that. And really, there's not a bad song on this record. And it's just kind of when you compare it to Kimono My House, which is seen as such a masterpiece of the era, it's like, well, okay, it's a secondary masterpiece. But to me, I kind of like this album almost better. It was also produced by Muff Winwood, Steve's brother, who did the first album, and I think Muff was in Traffic, but so in the band Traffic. Also, there were 3 albums in this era from Sparks on Island Records. It was Kimono, Propaganda, and the third one, Indiscreet, which featured a lot of sort of marching band kind of textures on there, and it got a little more experimental and got a little less successful on the charts and ended up getting dropped. And it seemed like Island Records sort of had that case of like doing 2 or 3 albums with an artist and then sort of like, okay, you know, and that ended up being their best, one of their best periods. They did it with John Cale. He had those 3 albums in the mid 70s, Slow Dazzle, Fear, and Helen of Troy. And then also in the early 80s, they did it with Grace Jones, with Warm Leatherette, Night Clubbing, and Living My Life. So Island was really like, they knew how to sort of tap into the thing that made the artist like the best. And I think that those albums, that's why they're so revered, is not only were they either commercially successful or they were artistically successful, or it was a marriage of the two things. So I don't know, maybe I'm just sort of talking out my whatever at this point because I wasn't really, I mean, I was like tiny kid at that point. But it does seem like there's a certain thing about what was going on with Chris Blackwell at Island Records and really fostering people like these artists and Bob Marley and you know whoever else came through Island. So shout out to them. No wonder U2 wanted to sign with them. And anyway, that's sort of new releases for this week. So thanks for joining, and I recommend Sparks. And there's a lot of albums of theirs that are great, but Propaganda, Kimono My House, those are 2 good ones to start with. But I figured today I'll give a little break to propaganda since it always kind of like the stepsister and really deserves better, more attention, I think. So, all right, have a great day. Have a great weekend. It's Memorial Day. We are going to be closed that day, but we're always closed Mondays, so it doesn't really matter. So, anyway, peace, be safe. Don't do anything we wouldn't do. Take care.